Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hey, you remember all the controversy that was happening a couple of years ago when people were getting stood down, people were getting laid off their work, people were getting put off or stood down without pay? Happened to me, you know, and I think it happened to a lot of people out there. Interesting story came up today. I think it's worthwhile having a look at this. And yeah, I like it when you have these people standing up for their rights, people with money, people with influence standing up and fighting back. It's always good to see it happening and seeing it getting argued out in court, because the media always try and always try and frame the narrative the way they want it, and we've seen that happening for the last couple of years when it's come to the Charlie Victor and it's come to the the things, the jabs that you get with them, to supposedly prevent the Charlie Victor. And we all knew, people that wanted to think about things, could think things through, could see that the Charlie Victor jab was not going to work 100%, and the way the media would portray it to work. You have to be, if you really want to think, concern, be loving towards your neighbors, well, then of course you had to get the jab. That's what you had to do. Now we all know that if you're going to get the jab, well, it's not going to prevent it from affecting your neighbors, other people that you might come in contact with, and that was blatantly obvious. But obviously, the media wanted to shape it that was how it was going to happen. And you're just a bad person if you weren't going to do all those things. So let's check out this story. Vaccine developer gives evidence during Warren Tredrea's unfair dismissal hearing. Yeah, so an Adelaide vaccine developer has told a court even a completely vaccinated workplace would not stop the transmission of COVID-19 in the unfair dismissal case of former Channel 9 presenter Warren Tredrea. I wish someone would send this information to my former employer. Anyway, whose name thus I shall not even mention. The former Port Adelaide captain is claiming he was unfairly dismissed by the network after he refused to get back against the Charlie Victor 19 and is seeking almost $6 million in lost wages. Tredrea's legal team told the federal court that the clauses which terminated his contract were unfair or harsh, just like what happened to you and I out there. I know there's a lot of people on here who went through the same thing I did. The applicant relied on evidence from Professor Nikolai Petrovsky on the second day of his trial in the federal court. So Petrovsky developed the vaccine COVAX 19 and had been seeking approval for it to be approved in Australia after it was trialed overseas but was never successful. The court previously heard Tredrea had signed up to a trial of the medical researchers vaccine in 2021 before he was stood down by Channel 9. Today, Channel 9's lawyer Brendan Roberts KC questioned Professor Petrovsky's regarding his views on various public health recommendations regarding the Charlie Victor during the pandemic in 2021. Petrovsky told the court that he disagreed with a number of statements made by the Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunisation, ATAGI, which reinforced the benefits and efficacy of mRNA Charlie Victor, Charlie Vax, due to the fact that they were not backed up by emerging real-world evidence at the time. This goes to a very valid point, which a lot of people were making, including myself at the time, that Israel was way ahead of the curve in the way they were jabbing their population, and we could see the evidence coming in from them, and the jab wasn't living up to the hype. We could all see that at the time, and you could tell that because we were all sold this lie that you get the jab, that's it, you're going to be well and truly protected. And then a couple of months in, they go, oh, wait up, no, you're not going to be well and truly protected. You have to get a little booster, and then obviously you have to get another booster, and then hey, just to make sure, well, why don't we get another booster? Based on the science at the time, we already knew that the vaccines wore off dramatically, Petrovsky said. There you go. Data from Israel showed that, in fact, after 6 months, they were seeing only 12% residual effectiveness of the mRNA vaccines jabs, and they hadn't prevented widespread community transmission of the virus despite very high levels of the population being vaxxed. Petrovsky said while he had no criticism against Atagi, I don't know, say that, itself, parts of its statement needed scientific qualification. They're using language in a policy sense, in a broad sense, but scientifically, when you pull it apart, there's aspects to the way they say that I disagree with. This is what Petrovsky said. Atagi, I'm sure, are trying to do their best to address their job, which is to obviously advise the Australian government based on questions they're asked. Does that mean I think they scientifically are always right? Absolutely not. I think it's reasonable that I, as a scientist, when I disagree with them, that I say so. So Petrovsky had said the idea that a vax could prevent the risk of COVID in a workplace is also not scientifically correct. Did you hear that, former boss? It's not scientifically correct. And all those crackheads in the news that kept telling us we have to believe the science, but they kept putting out these statements like this that's going to prevent the risk of COVID in the workplace. Not scientifically correct, apparently. Even if you have a completely vaxxed workplace, the virus is still going to enter that workplace. Really. And it's still going to transmit between the vax people in that workplace. Petrovsky said, the only way you can do that is if you have a vax that's 90 or 95% effective against transmission. And we knew that these vaccines were never going to be able to achieve that. Wow. They were never going to be able to achieve that, and they knew that. But goes on to say, as additional information became available, then I tried to share that scientific information through appropriate forums. I was giving presentations at various conferences. If you listen to those, you'll hear me expressing views both for and against, because, free speech, and you should be able to share good scientific data. Whether or not they support your own ideals, you should still be able to support them. And that's what he's saying here. He was expressing views for both and against the jab, and the benefits and the risks of the jab in appropriate scientific language. My goodness, like I said, I like these kinds of stories where you can see actual scientific data, and they put out the story as is, and the media cannot just, they can't, they're forced to just tell the story as is, and they can't just reshape it. They'll try and put their own narrative on it, of course, especially the ABC. They always try and twist the facts because they don't like the fact that they got it so wrong when it came to the Charlie Victor, as did so many workplaces, my former workplace being one of them. Love this story. Anyway, let me know what you think. I do hope he wins. He gets his 6 million. Unfortunately, however, the left-sided media are going to keep shaping the narrative the way they want it. They will never admit to the things that they got wrong. And no one, including the government, this is the problem, because when the government doesn't want to admit all the things that they got wrong, and then you've got all these big businesses, companies that don't want to admit where they got it wrong, okay, it's very likely that he is going to lose. Very likely. However, I'm glad he is standing up for his rights and standing up against a big company, big business like that, like Channel 9, for his unfair dismissal. Let me know what you think. More interesting news about the pandemic. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening. Slippery slope we're on.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire.